Hey friends, and welcome back to this week's Self-Love Masterclass. Last week, I was working with a client, and one of the things that she was struggling with is her partner. And the specific issue that she's having with her partner right now is he's having a real hard time supporting her with some of her dreams. And so we started to take a look at why is this happening, or what is the self-love message for her? I think this video is really important because I know there are so many of us that are still on the journey to find love. We're looking for that partner to spend the rest of our lives with, and we want to be just making sure that we find somebody who is in complete and full alignment with ourselves, and someone that shares the same values. And I also know that there are so many of us that are also in relationships right now and sort of looking at where we are in that relationship and if it's a relationship that we should continue to fight for. Relationships are probably one of the most difficult things that we go through or that we experience as human beings. And I say it's because our relationships are our biggest teachers, right? The people that we're actually in relationships with are always mirroring back to us who we are and how we feel about ourselves and where we're going, not only from a self-love perspective, but even just on a physical, material level, right? So that's why it's tricky and it's tough, but it's also something that's so important that we take a look at. I know sometimes what it feels like or what we want to do is just kind of bury our head in the sand and pray to God and hope that the situation will go away, or that nagging feeling that keeps coming up in our intuition, that it will somehow just snooze itself out. But it usually doesn't happen. So if this little voice inside your head has been telling you something, if you've been hearing the whispers, if the universe has been sending you signs, and when you check in with yourself and check in with your gut, you're feeling like something is off, you don't want to ignore that. I can't remember if it was Oprah or Maya Angelou or Ian Van Zandt who said, life typically shows up and at first it throws like a little pebble, right? Like this little stone trying to get your attention. And then it's like a bigger stone or something like that. But then eventually a brick comes through your window. And what I like to add to that metaphor is if the brick doesn't wake you up, the whole house gets set on fire. Life starts to burn everything in your life down to the ground to try to get you to come home to yourself, to try to bring you back to zero so that you can see yourself and you can restore your life and go in the direction that you were actually meant to go in. Let's just sort of dig into what I mean about this and a little bit more on how I sort of helped my client see what the self-love lesson was for her. And I hope that it's really going to help you if you're someone that's going through this, or really anyone that you choose to share this video with. I hope it's going to help them. So you have your dreams and your goals that you want to pursue, and you are finally at a place of fullness and wholeness where you're starting to believe in yourself and you're starting to create those blueprints and take actions towards your dream. And now you have your partner, and your partner is kind of trying to put on the brakes. Your partner might be saying things like, I don't think this is a good idea. I don't think this is gonna work at all. This isn't the time right now. You've said you wanted to start these things and then you didn't do them and it never worked out. What about me? This is gonna put such a strain on our relationship. These are some of the things that some people say when they're trying to work things through with you, but also when it's a person that's not believing in your dreams and not supporting you. And I know it's difficult to tell the difference between when they're asking legitimate questions and they have legitimate concerns, and when it's coming from a lack of self-love, when it's coming from their own insecurity or their own fears, and so they're wanting to hold you back. One of the things that we learn a lot in relationships is the spiritual lesson of attachment. When we're talking about attachment, it's us learning that love is something that we have to give freely and allow to come in freely. It's not something that we can box or hold on to tightly or control. Love is a risk, and that's part of the reason why it's such an amazing spiritual lesson if you can go through loving someone, right? Because all of your own insecurities and all of your own fears are going to come up as you try to hold on tight to the love that you have, or try to hold on tight to that person. And so that is typically what's coming up when your partner is asking these questions that are sort of holding you back. They're having to deal with their own fears and insecurities, like, man, if this woman or man that I'm in a relationship goes off and starts fulfilling on their dreams, will they still want me? Will they still want to be with me? Will they still value me, love me, find me as attractive? What if they fall in love with someone else? What if they meet someone else? Will they find someone else? What if pursuing this tears us apart? And even if you're watching this, you might even see in some ways that you might be holding your partner back because you're afraid of these things deep down yourself. It's scary, and there is no magic pill to get those fears and those insecurities to disappear. The only way to go beyond them is to move through them, to understand that relationships are here to help us grow and to heal. And so if those insecurities are coming up, ignoring them, burying your head in the sand, holding yourself back and saying, okay, I won't pursue the dream, I won't go after it, is not going to solve or help anything. If you hold yourself back, or your partner holds you back, or you hold each other back, it's only going to create a deep level of resentment. It's going to create conflict and animosity, and even in some cases on an individual level, depression. That's when we start to see weird things happening, like the sex is not in the marriage anymore or the partnership anymore. Extramarital affairs or cheating is starting to happen. People are just not, you can feel when you're disconnected from your partner, but no one's saying anything, no one's talking about it, and you just feel miserable in life. And you don't want to get to that place, because that isn't love either. That is the broken shards and remnants of a love that once was. Even if you're afraid and you have dreams that you want to pursue, you don't want to hold off on them because your partner is afraid. What's necessary is communication. What's necessary is you and your partner, no matter what stage of your relationship you're in, whether it's a newer relationship or you've been married for 50 years, it's important that you talk about your dreams and your values together, and that you look for ways that you can actually be yourselves, grow in self-love, pursue the things that are important to you, and also sustain your love in your marriage. You can do this. If you're really paying attention to the love that you have, and you are on a solid foundation where you share the same values, you can totally pursue your dreams and desires and maintain and sustain your relationship. It's about believing in yourselves, believing in yourself, and having a commitment. I'm not saying that there aren't times when you will need to make some compromises. Of course, even on an individual level, you have to make compromises in your own life. Naturally, you're going to need to do the same in your relationship, but it isn't the experience of you stifling yourself or trying to push yourself down or playing small because you're afraid of how your partner is going to feel, or because your partner's afraid of losing you. So that's a self-love lesson, is if you're dealing with something like this right now, it's time to have some open communication and talk about your fears. Talk about what's really going on. Now, in the beginning of this video, I said that sometimes there are legitimate questions. So if your partner is just legitimately concerned because they see holes or gaps in your plans, it's okay for them to ask those questions. Teach your partner to ask questions from a place of constructive criticism rather than a place of fear. So let's say there's a gap in your plan. Instead of them saying, "That will never work," what a healthy partner who feels filled up with self-love will say is, "You know, sweetheart, I think there are some steps you might be missing. Can I help you fill in those gaps? Can we take a look at some things that we could actually add, or look at how we can make this plan a little bit more solid?" They're not going to try to just derail you completely or discourage you completely. The other thing that I want to say is that if your partner is healthy and whole, if you are healthy and whole, there's a way that you speak to each other, and you speak to each other from a place of wanting to see each other win and succeed. So you have to really determine for yourself if you're whole, if your partner's whole, or if that's something that you're struggling with. Because if you are, and your partner is not committed to working on self-love or to looking at this stuff, you have to determine how much weight can you withstand. There comes a point where another person's lack of self-love or insecurity is so heavy that you can't carry them anymore. It's actually going to break your back or destroy you from an energetic standpoint. People have to be able to take care of themselves and be whole and do that work for themselves. You can help each other, but you can't carry each other throughout the entire journey. So if someone is unwilling to support you, if someone is unwilling to have any communication whatsoever, if they are just a roadblock in your way instead of being a bridge, you have to evaluate for yourself if this is a relationship that is healthy for you and one you can continue to pursue. And if you don't know how to evaluate that or weigh that out for yourself, work with a therapist, a counselor, or someone like myself who is a coach who can help you to work through those pieces. My friends, it has been so awesome connecting with you in this space and sharing this video and sharing my heart and my heart's work for you, with you, through me. Divine guidance, I say, is always coming through me. Here we talk about self-love. If you're new, if this is your first time watching my videos, I'm a self-love coach, and I'm also an energy healer. I'm also a student, and I'm studying issues around gender, sexuality, and women's issues. So it's my pleasure to come out here and talk to you. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to share the video with your friends and your family, anybody that you really feel could use this blessing today. All right, my friends, I'm gonna go and get some breakfast, but until we see each other next time, don't you forget, my friends, that we are in this together. Mwah.